The interview is being conducted for the Veterans History Project for the Library of Congress. The veteran's name is Dr. Robert M. Scoville. They were born on September 17, 1938. He served in the Air Force during Vietnam, and he achieved the rank of captain. We are recording this on April 7, 2013. I am William Richter, and I am conducting the interview. No relation. All right, Dr. Scoville, thank you for taking the time to sit with us today and tell your story. If you just want to start off with where and when you were born.
I was born in Barnwell, South Carolina, September the 17th, 1938,
Okay.
and went to school through the 12th grade in Barnwell. And then I went to the Citadel and spent 4 years at the Citadel, majoring in pre-med. Went through 4 years of Air Force ROTC. And I left the Citadel in 1960 and went to the Medical College of South Carolina, graduated in 1964 with a Doctor of Medicine. And I went to Richmond, Virginia at the Medical College of Virginia, where I did my internship. And knew at that time I was going to go into orthopedics, so they adjusted my internship rotation, so I got an extra month of surgery and a month of orthopedics.
Okay. And if you want to talk a little bit about your family, maybe, your parents, what they did, if you had any that served in the military.
My father was born in 1899. And my mother was born in 1905. My father graduated from Citadel in 1921, and my mother graduated from Winthrop College, I think, in 25.
Okay.
And she was a school teacher, and my father was a civil engineer who worked with the South Carolina Highway Department, who took care of the roads in Barnwell County and the school buses.
All right. And if you'd like to talk about your service in the Air Force, why you chose to join the Air Force, and your time in training starting out.
I wanted to go in the Air Force because had I not been accepted to medical school, I was headed to the Air Force, and I'd been to summer camp after my second year in college, and had flown some, and was interested in the Air Force, was interested in flying. So when I found out that I was allotted to the Air Force under what we call the Berry Plan, which was a plan where all physicians entered the service.
Okay.
And you could choose which branch most of the time. So I got allotted to the Air Force and wanted to go to flight surgeon school. And I spent 3 months in San Antonio, Texas, going to flight surgeon school.
Okay, and talk about the flight surgeon school. What was that like? How did they train you? What was life like there?
Well, it was certainly more relaxed than internship at the Medical College of Virginia. But they taught us how to take care of flying personnel. They put us in high altitude chambers. They put us in a centrifuge. We were taught how to take care of flying personnel.
Okay. And where did you what did you do for recreation there? What was the food like? Your social life, your friends.
In flight surgeon school?
Yes, sir.
Well, it was very relaxed, and we went to school for like 8 hours a day, and then we had no commitment after that. And my wife and I lived in an apartment in San Antonio, and we went down to the beaches in Texas, and I did some dove hunting, and we enjoyed life for a change because internship was extremely rigorous. And for 9 months, I worked every other night, and so I had no night duty during that period of time.
I bet that was nice.
It was extremely nice.
Yes, sir. So after San Antonio, where did you go after that?
They transferred me to Hunter Air Force Base in Savannah, Georgia.
Okay.
And I got there in October, and then they sent me temporary duty to Rhein-Main Air Force Base in Frankfurt, Germany, I think in January. And it was a military air transport group flying C-124s. And so I got to travel around Europe some. And then I got a telegram that reassigned me to Benoit, South Vietnam in May of '66.
Okay. And what was it like to get that telegram? What was going through your mind?
Well, I thought that they had extended me through the first part of June, which would have put me less than a year left in the service. And I did not anticipate being transferred to a war zone. So it was sort of, well, that's the way the chips fall. That's where I'm going, so be it. So that was the way it worked out. And my wife and I were expecting our first child.
Oh, wow.
So it was an interesting time, yes.
I'm sure. Okay. So talk about, I'm assuming you flew over to Vietnam. Talk about your travel there and what was it like to first arrive there?
They flew us as a group of soldiers. There were Army, Air Force, I guess some Navy. And we flew in what they call a World Airways 707, which was a 707 that a company leased, and they called it World Airways. And flew over, wound up in Saigon, and for 24 hours, and then they took me by bus to a place called Benoit. And shortly after arriving, I saw a college classmate who was flying F-5s named Sam Carlson, and who lived in the hut right beside me, and I was assigned as the flight surgeon to their unit and an F-100 unit, and we became great friends. And unfortunately, he was killed on December the 7th, 1966.
I'm sorry to hear that. Would you like to talk any more about him in particular?
We were friends, and we became great friends, and he was on a mission right north of our base and was flying into a bomb drop, and something happened and he crashed.
So talk.
We would lose about one pilot a month.
One pilot a month?
Yeah, and all were seemingly good friends.
Mm-hmm. It sounded like you guys were really tight-knit over there. What was it like when you go out on a mission, or what did you do there?
You really didn't have to go out on a mission. You could get your flight time by just flying in country on a transport from one place to another, or flying to Manila.
Okay.
But the flight surgeons there, and I also felt it was important to join the pilots in what they were doing. And we had some two-seat F-100 fighters that I elected to fly back seat in on missions, and I also did it in a forward air control aircraft called an O-1, which was a small Cessna 150, to mark targets. And then there was a C-47 that they put 3 Gatling guns in that they would generally launch at night to carry out night missions, and I went a couple of times in that.
Okay, so what was it like up in that plane going at night? What was going through your mind? What was What was it like knowing that
It
you
was
were
an
going?
education.
Yeah.
I don't know that I was so concerned about me
Mhm.
getting injured, but it was an education. It was an education in war.
Mhm. And so, talk about more when you were. What was it like to be a flight surgeon? Did you have to do any? Assume you did some surgery while you were over there. What was that like?
The surgery I did was only local things.
Okay.
We were just a dispensary. We were not a surgical, it's sort of being a flight surgeon, they call it a flight surgeon, but it's really a flight medical officer because you're
Okay.
not taking care of real wounded people. But we had a big evacuation hospital just down the road called the 93rd Evac, and I went down there and scrubbed on a fair number of cases, orthopedic type cases,
Okay.
because of my interest in orthopedics. So I got familiar with war wounds. But we were taking care of the 5,000 people at Benoit through their illnesses, and we're dealing with a healthy group of people. So you're not talking about a lot of significant illnesses. And we would put some people in our dispensary who had terrible colds or flu and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
We saw a lot of venereal disease. And general run-of-the-mill illnesses that a population of 5,000 people would have.
Mm-hmm. And with medical practices over there, did anything that they did over in Vietnam affect how surgery or any sort of medical practice is done today, in your opinion?
Oh yes. The traumatic injuries that are sustained by bullets was realized and incorporated in anybody that served over there and had some exposure to it would take back home and carry out in their home environment, and it certainly affected me. A bullet wound, from the standpoint of the injury, when you debride it, you make a small hole into a big hole, and you come back 2 to 3 days later and you redo it and you get rid of dead tissue. After Vietnam, I started orthopedic residency, and part of my residency was 6 months at the U.S. Naval Hospital in Charleston, and I had a ward of 30, and most of them were injured Vietnam veterans that I took care of. So the lessons that I learned in Vietnam certainly applied to what I was doing. And the other thing, you did not close wounds up like they did years in World War II. You did not close them, so it prevented infection. And while over there, we went to a leper colony every Sunday, carried by Army Aviation Company Flying Hughes. And we would take a couple of doctors, a couple of corpsmen, and a dentist, and we would sort of try to take care of the leper colony, their medical needs, which was a very interesting thing.
And do you want to talk any more about that? Like, what were those people like, and how was your interaction with them?
The head of the leper colony was a Swissman who was a Catholic father named Father Brisset, and the nuns were all Vietnamese Catholic nuns. And the patients were appreciative, as were the nuns and Father Brisset, of anything we would do and could do for those people. And it was a joy to be there.
And how did you stay in touch with your family and friends back home, being over in Vietnam? Or
By
would you-
letter.
By letter.
And it was early on in tapes, voice tapes. And my wife had a small tape recorder, and I did, about that size, about 2 to 3 inches. And we would send tapes back and forth. And at one point in time, I came back to the United States on a medevac flight, C-141, because I was a flight medical officer, a flight surgeon, and was able to spend a week back mid-term, and it was shortly after the birth of our first child. Kind of interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because it was quite an exciting moment.
Yeah. So, is there anything else with Vietnam that you'd like to talk about? Any sort of duties that you had to cover like that?
We were somewhat involved with the local hospital at Benoit, the town of Benoit, and it was staffed by Australian physicians and nurses who came over and rotated for 6 weeks at a time. These were all non-military Australians. They were doing it out of just good-hearted way, and so we got to meet a lot of those people. What other exposures? I look at that year as a learning year, and I came to admire the pilots. Very bright, very patriotic, well motivated, a great group of people.
And so, when you came home after Vietnam, what was the reception like when you came home?
Oh, it seemed that nobody really cared whether you'd been there or not, except family and close friends. And some people looked at you like you had warts all over you. So it was not a well-received situation. But that's them.
Yeah.
I'm still very proud of it.
Yeah, definitely. And talk about readjusting to civilian life after being in the military. How hard was that? How long did that take? What was it like for you?
No time at all.
No time at all?
No, because when I started orthopedic residency, it was just fun labor. So I didn't reflect back or desire to be back or anything like that. But I did not look at it as any type of disappointment or somebody had done me harm at all.
And did you keep in touch with your fellow veterans? I know that there's one friend that you said you kept in touch with some. Did you participate in any veterans organizations, anything like that?
The only person that I have maintained contact with through these years is Tim Sullivan of Sterling, Illinois. And the remainder of them were from different parts of the country and did not keep in touch. So.
Okay. And after the military, you, with going into orthopedics, what was that like? What did you do after the war?
Went into orthopedics at the Medical University of South Carolina and finished in 1971 and came to Rock Hill, South Carolina and practiced until 2000 when I retired.
All right. And how is retirement then?
It's wonderful. Yeah. Retirement was somewhat earlier than I thought because unfortunately I got hepatitis C from operating on somebody and got stuck with a needle. And when they proved statistically that surgeons who had hepatitis C could give it to the patient if they stuck themselves and bled into the patient, then I made a decision ethically and morally and legally that I couldn't continue to do that. So that was the end of my orthopedics. I tried doing the office orthopedics for about 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't satisfy me, so I hung it up.
Yep. So, wrapping up, how would you say that your wartime experience has affected your life, and what life lessons have you learned from the military?
It made me a better person, more patriotic than I was, but I was patriotic anyhow, but it enhanced that. It taught me respect of different cultures from different countries. I learned a lot from world travel, and it was I look at it as a educational experience.
Mm-hmm.
And would I do it again? If Uncle Sugar said go, I'd go.
All right. Do you have any other comments or stories that you'd like to share with us?
Not that I'm aware of.
Thank you, Dr. Scoville, for your service to our country and ensuring our freedom.
Yes, sir.
Go for it.
This is a photograph of me and Father Bersay, who ran the Leper Colony, the Benson Leper Colony, north of us about 20 kilometers that we would go to every Sunday. When we were there, and we would carry a couple of doctors and a dentist and a couple of corpsmen and try to take care of the lepers. That's a cast that I put on a leper's leg to heal up pressure sores, and it would take about 6 weeks. I'd have to change the cast every couple of weeks, and it would eventually heal the sore. And that's a leper who has lost his fingers and has the neurological and the cutaneous lesions of leprosy. Another picture of the leper. And the young girl in the yellow dress and the other girl both have leprosy.
Mm-hmm. And you want to talk about those girls, your interaction with them a little bit?
Just delightful children who appreciated everything we did, and it was good to be there.
Mm-hmm.
This is an aerial view of the Leper Colony, taken from a Army helicopter which would carry us in and then extract us.
Mm-hmm.
And it was guarded by South Vietnamese soldiers. This is one of the pilots, Ed Barnes.
Okay.
And that's yours truly. My wife, and this is my bed,
Mm-hmm.
along with my mosquito netting.
And talk about your room a little bit. What was it? How big was it? What was life like? What'd you eat?
It was just a hut. With, I think, probably 12 people slept in it at different parts of the hut. And we had plenty of food, lots of it.
Mm-hmm. See, you've got some Ritz crackers there. Did you get stuff from America sent in?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's the hut.
Mm-hmm. And how many of those huts were there?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Was it
a pretty big place, or?
We had a base population of 5,000.
Oh, wow.
And
I see you've got a bike there too. Did you use that for transportation, or?
yeah, everybody had a bike.
Uh-huh.
Mine was a rickety bike, but it got me to and from. And those are 3 of the flight surgeons.
Okay.
The fellow on the right is the fellow that I have stayed in touch with throughout, and one of my closest personal friends, Tim Sullivan.
Mm-hmm.
And there he is in his usual reclining position. And this is the bar of the F5 squadron.
Okay, and so talk about how much time did those guys spend up in the air versus?
I think they flew probably every other day. Sometimes it was daily.
Mm-hmm.
That's a U-2 plane. We had two of them stationed at Benoit.
Mm-hmm. And did you get to hear about many of their missions? I know that they were like the spy planes.
They were spy planes, and it was super secret.
Uh-huh.
And they had a different part of the base with a flight surgeon, and we were not associated with those people.
Okay.
This is I'm in the back seat of a spotter airplane called an O-1, small Cessna, and that happens to be the town of Vung Tau
Okay.
on the coast. And I don't know how to rotate that.
That's okay. You can just talk about it.
But that's W.E. Miller, Eric Miller, that I flew 2 or 3 times in the spotter aircraft, and these are the white phosphorus rockets to mark targets.
And talk a little bit about him and your missions with the
He
Cessna.
was an F-100 pilot who got transferred to spotter aircraft, and we would fly around and try to find a target.
Mm-hmm. And did they specifically tell you what to target beforehand, or was that kind of one of those things where you go out and see what you can find?
See what you can find.
Okay.
And I'm in the back seat of an F-100,
Mm-hmm.
and the smoke here is put down by the forward air controller, like W.E. Miller. He marks a target, and then as we do our drops, he corrects where to put the drop, either further north, further south, east or west, by a certain distance. And then once you get on the target, he says, continue to hit that target.
Okay. And so talk about what it's like to take off in one of those planes.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
And it's exciting to dive on the target also. And it's exciting to land in one.
And how far away are you usually from the actual target? How long does it take for you to get there?
It's according to where the target is. It might take 5 minutes, 30 minutes, 20 minutes. All of ours were over the south, never over the north. We were further. We didn't have any northern targets.
Okay.
And that's a picture of me taking me through the rearview mirror.
Uh-huh.
And the pilot
Sits right below you?
is up front.
Okay.
But his head would be right there.
Okay.
And that's a F-100. Another picture.
And you mentioned earlier that they fly in a group of 3. Is that correct? And talk a little bit about how close they stay together and that kind of
Pretty
thing.
close, and particularly in inclement weather where they're flying on the leader. If it's at nighttime, they're flying on the leader. There's a light behind the leader's canopy, and you are able to follow the leader by flying on his light. This is an F-5, which was a T-38 trainer that they put armament on and made it into the fighter. It's a 2-engine, and this is a type of plane that my good friend and college classmate was killed in.
And what do they have up under the wings there?
This is a fuel tank,
Okay.
and that's probably a 500-pound bomb.
Okay.
one on each side. One of our planes hit a mountain in the southern part of Spain. It was a C-124 and killed 8 people, and I was the investigating medical officer
Okay.
for that.
And what was your job with that? What
Tried
was that like?
to develop a theory of why the plane crashed.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the Sierra Nevada mountains in the lower part of Spain.
Okay.
And this plane hit a 10,000-foot mountain at 10,000 feet.
Oh, wow.
I'd flown beside it in daytime the same day, and he hit the mountain at night the same within a few hours of flying beside it. And that's a Jeep that they tried to get us up to the crash site, but the terrible weather prevented it.
Oh.
This helicopter was able to get to the crash site and know that there were no living people, because the biggest part of the plane was a wheel.
Okay.
And that's the town of Capellera, Spain, where we spent a week.
Is that really high up in the mountains, it looks like?
It's probably 9,500 feet.
Wow.
And that just shows you the terrace fields.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the navigator who was on the investigation team. And that is, I think that's Granada, Spain.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the mountains.
Okay.
And that's fat me. At that time, I was kind of overweight. And that's me getting into the back seat of an F-100 flying, going on a mission.
Uh-huh.
And that's me in my hut. Same. And that's a dispensary picture of the people that worked in the dispensary. This is our commander.
Okay.
That's me, and that's my good friend Tim Sullivan.
And all of those people worked with the medical team?
Right. This guy was Red Cross.
Oh.
Two flight surgeons and myself. This was an F-100 that got shot down on the Delta. And the young fellow was a photographer. And they flew me down in a C-47 to look at them. The pilot was asleep when I got there, and this guy was the most anxious person I've ever seen in my life. He was shaking because they had to eject.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to give him a tranquilizer to get him in the plane and bring him back.
Oh boy.
And that's just some surgery we're doing at the Leper Colony. The fellow on the right became an eye surgeon, and I'm doing the surgery. And that's the dispenser and the ambulance.
Okay.
Me, F-100. And these are either 500 or 750 pound bombs. This is napalm, and that's a gas tank.
Wow. What was it like seeing the napalm drop? Did you ever get to experience that?
Well, once we drop it, we are gone from it.
Mm-hmm.
But they had some demonstrations on base, and you wouldn't want to be near it.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
All right. Thank you, sir.